Boom. Look at you. In advance of the timing, ahead of the game.
What's up?
Dylan, getting the soup ripped up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up, Julian? I can't see you if that's your intention.
Oh, you can't see me? Why?
No.
Oh, I have to fix it then.
Don't know, man. Because the internet is a strange and mysterious creature. We're only
You got
beginning
a
to learn
nice
her
Christmas
ways.
tree there.
Thanks, man. You know, it's a family street, so what can I say? It would be an absolute travesty to not do it to its fullest extent. Yeah.
What are you cooking, my guy?
I'm ripping it up with some cauliflower soup today. The non-vegan, non-kosher friendly way. That makes you feel really
Imagine
nice.
being vegan.
Yeah, makes you feel really nice and cozy. I mean, I'm sure you could do it as vegan, but I'm down for that. Like those little pieces of bacon fat, those things are awesome. It makes a beautiful stock. So, and then we're gonna do some cauliflower soup with some sesame and garlic on top of that. So,
Where you from?
I grew up in Seattle, man.
Ah.
And spent some time down in LA, but this is home in Amsterdam.
Do you speak Dutch?
Yes.
The only words I know in Dutch is ik maak je homo.
Ik maak je homo?
Yes.
I'll make you gay. Interesting.
Yeah, and kankerhor.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. You
Yeah.
definitely need to learn how to shout out illnesses. And
Yeah, that's the only thing I know in Dutch.
No, that's pretty good. That'll get you going. In addition to your standard survival fare, I guess it's time. Yeah, we are crossing the time boundary. Time to get serious, guys. We're gonna do a thing. So this is the Wise Crowds design call. So Julian, Leah, that's where you find yourself. That's where we be. Yo, welcome to the space.
I couldn't fix my camera. I don't know why.
I don't know, man. Because you're a bot, of course. No, that's not.
Hello. We also have problems with our camera.
Oh, okay. This is Unai. And Leda.
Yes, almost. His partner.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
I'm here with Abdallah, my colleague.
Oh, righteous. Sick. Making use of the space then. We're going to rip it up. Well, what we're going to do, kicking off. So this is the Wise Crowds design call. I guess I can actually introduce the space. What we're going to do is do a standard sort of give and get help game called Wise Crowds, one of the liberating structures. So, but before we get started off in that sort of practical space, what we'll do is play a game called impromptu networking with whomsoever is here. And impromptu networking works as follows. We'll just have a series of different one-on-one conversations. And those will be typically 5 minutes in length around the same topic or subject matter. And that today is, this week, what I intend to give and would be grateful to receive from the world is. So this week, what I intend to give and am grateful for receiving is ... ellipsis. And so what I'm going to do is open up a fistful of breakout rooms as we wait for the obligatory 5 or 10 minutes before people just sort of trickle in. And we're going to play this game of impromptu networking around this question that I just shared. Is that clear for anyone, or what's the thing that you have the most questions about now?
It's clear, although we are 2 here, so I don't know how we can split.
Well, I don't know, it'll be fun. I think it'll work out. Oh no, I need to put a timer on the rooms. Oh, begging your pardon. I'm fumbling. Oh no. 4 minutes plus a little 1 minute kicker. All right, open a bunch of breakout rooms, and then I push you guys over, and I'm sure the 3 of you will figure it out. Oh. And that, kids, how we make the first 5 minutes of the meeting not a total fucking waste of time standing there awkwardly circle jerking. Not getting started and not getting started. Liminal space. Liminality is fun. There's practical games today. While everybody's talking, I'll keep making my soup. Because we can do that when we work remotely. Well, I guess I can answer the question that I posed. I actually did a good friend, dear human, Aloysius, pulled a couple cards for me today. And so she pulled give uniqueness and receive. Oh no, I don't remember. That bad? I'm making a horrible person. I don't remember what the receive card was. Yes, I definitely needed it because it is not in my attention space. Let's ask Twitter. Twitter remembers. Uniqueness. I think that's what I like about that one is it's kind of a given, right? No matter what, like you're given your uniqueness out there into the space. Like this is the way it is. Don't work no other way. You bring a unique perspective. And then receive synergy. 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 Interesting. Synergies. Synergy is another name for synchronicity. I think synergy is maybe a sister or cousin of synchronicity, and related to spontaneity and serendipity. To make a triad complete. Got a new participant joining the space. So let me welcome them in. We'll keep the game going. Participant-y thing. Sherry, welcome to the party. Sherry, welcome to the party. This will be tricky. Finishing getting this soup started. Since I'm solo dad today. And that means that I will have to scoop the kids up right after the call. Yeah, that thing. Enabling. Dun, 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 dun. We are getting started with impromptu networking, as one does, around what you intend to give to the world this week and what you are grateful to receive. And I was just saying that I had engaged in the mystic tradition that is tarot, and a good friend had pulled a couple cards for me earlier today. It was to give uniqueness and to synergy. So synergy feels like she definitely exists in the pantheon with my patron saint and goddess Serendipity, and her sister Synchronicity and Spontaneity.
We are back.
Boom. Well, welcome back. We have picked up Sherry in the mix, and I have shared with her my response to the prompt, and I think she knows the game that is impromptu networking. So what I'm going to do is we're going to open these rooms again, and we're going to make some different subgroups. Julian, if you want to hang out with me, you can go introduce yourself with Sherry, and on your mark, get set. What do you intend to give to the world, and what are you grateful to receive? Your mark, get set, race. All right, also acceptable. Oh, Sherry, so I invite you to room 1, and then I'm gonna grab Julian. Tell him to get back here. Julian.
What's up?
Yo, my friend. What are you intending to give to the world this week? What are you grateful to receive?
I wanna be a great father because my sister is pregnant.
Ah, congratulations.
Yeah, and that's it. And I wanna receive. I'm happy to receive that I'm blessed with good parents.
Oh,
Yeah,
excellent.
they are very nice to me.
They're nice. Well, yeah, that's a part of the game for sure. Treating each other like humans. That's definitely helps. Sick. Well, congratulations with your sister. I was engaging in, somebody had offered me this question and also offered me some answers to this question, and the answers that they offered were to give uniqueness and to receive synergy, which is an interesting thing. Synergy.
Yes, very interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What is it? What information you have about synergy? What's your context that we bring to that phenomena or that concept?
I don't know, man. If I like together, you can do everything. You know what I mean? Like if you do something with your parents, for example, you can. I don't know how to. Oh, you can. Oh man, I lost my words.
Uh-oh. They're there. Wherever words go, they're there.
I think they're in my ass.
Maybe not so much, or at least that doesn't seem like the most helpful place for them to be. So synergy kind of has this feeling of like this possible like positive conspiracy, like, but it tends to be like synergy, I feel like, is a thing that you have to intend. You don't like accidentally synergize, do you? Like you might accidentally enter into a state of sort of symbiosis.
No,
and where you are contributing to one another's health and success. I feel like synergy is more of a like intentionally engagey thing. Like you really like got to go out there to synergize, which somehow like as soon as you do that makes it more stupid. I don't know why.
Yeah.
the concept that's in my brain with it. Just because I imagine like motivational posters in the office, like synergize.
I think if you're cooperating with other people and give them nice words, what they're doing and stuff like that, it's a big point for a good relationship with them.
For sure.
Yeah.
No doubt. Positive feedback is feedback too, man. Share some words of appreciation. And uniqueness seems like kind of easy, almost lazy. Hey, you nerds, you guys are back. What was I saying? Let me keep making this sleep and neglecting my responsibilities of stewarding this space. Yes, it does smell nice. That's for sure. It is cauliflower, bloomcoal soup. Cauliflower with sesame and garlic. A little bit of leek, a little bit of onion, some sesame, some garlic, and away you go. Black pepper, and the speculoos, the little pieces of bacon. Pancetta is a good alternative. So that's the recipe. That's a tangent because we want to do this impromptu networking thing one more time and complete our cycle of 3 one-on-one interactions to welcome and warm up into the space. So with that, I'm going to invite everybody one more time and then uninvite Lair. If you want to hang out with me and ignore that prompt, or
Yes, we are here.
Cool. And let's see. And Sherry, if you want to go introduce yourself with Julian, then we'll let it rip. So, what is it that that you intend to give the world?
Yeah, I was more specifically thinking about people. What I'd like to get from my friends. I'd like to get their time and moments to share our challenges and daily things. And I like to give time to my daughter, spend quality time with her.
Word. How old is she?
10 months.
10 months. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh yeah, for sure. You're in that. You're still in maximal. Like, this is my secret to parenthood, is like spend the maximum amount of time like that they will tolerate of like me squishing my face with their face. Like however old they are, however much of that metric I can maximize, that's how I think that equals relatively well-rounded human beings. So, enjoy it.
Thanks.
Dope. So my response is I intend to I actually had a tarot card reading from a friend, and they suggested or drew the cards of uniqueness and synergy. I don't know if it was actually a tarot deck. I doubt it was. These were funny creatures with big words, but uniqueness and synergy. So to give the world uniqueness and to be grateful for synergy, which feels a little cheap. If I'm honest, uniqueness, like how could you not give the world uniqueness? I don't know if there's a possibility where that even exists. But okay, all right, I'll take the easy win. Sure, why not? And synergy, like what is synergy? Sort of exists in this pantheon or has this relationship with these sisters of spontaneity. I think spontaneity is the eldest of these triplets, these 3 sisters. Spontaneity was probably born on the wind and bumped into and created through surprise this state of synchronicity. which I equate with synergy for whatever reason. And the two of them sort of like leaned into the happy accident of bumping into one another and creating one another, so to speak. And they gave birth to serendipity. So, and serendipity is sort of my patron saint and goddess. So synchronicity is sort of like a cousin or of these sisters somehow, right? You know, maybe the like the mother that is the ecology. So I can, yeah, if I think about invoke ecology when I think about synchronicity, then it becomes like this really big, wide open space. Yeah, and somehow a lot of things become possible.
Yeah, he's there. I'm here with Abdallah, my colleague.
Abdallah, what's
Yeah.
up?
It's good. How are you?
It's her boyfriend.
Shut up.
I think you like that those words.
Yeah. Well, playfulness is welcome. Well, gang, that's impromptu networking. You know, this series of 3 different one-on-one interactions around a shared prompt, or as we like to call them, invitations. It's the same question or topic or cue for those 3 interactions. So, like I made mention, the intention of this call is the Wise Crowd's design call. It is here as a sort of resource and opportunity space to give and get help around arranging time, attention, and energy together with other people and practitioners, doing that type of thing together in different spaces. The primary tooling and focus of this call tends to be around the application or the design challenge that is using liberating structures in a context. And we'll use this pattern that is Wise Crowds to do so. But before I just start yammering it up and talking, did anyone bring a design brief for us to work on today? Like that's a situation, a question, or a challenge that they would like to apply liberating structures towards.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, awesome. Dope. Let's see. Well, then what we're going to do is unpack this structure that is Wise Crowds. So what you'll do is you'll take 2 or 3 minutes to explain to us your question, situation, question, or challenge. And then we, as the rest of the group, will take on the role of consultants as you play that role of client. After that first 2 or 3 minutes of explaining your challenge, us consultants are going to ask you, the client, for some additional clarifying questions. So that can be anything we'd like to know more about. And those clarifying questions are clarifying questions. They're requests for additional information. So what we want to do is try and focus on just getting clarification rather than giving advice in that stage. And we'll do that for, again, about 2 or 3 minutes. Keep it relatively brief. And then we will invite the client to turn off their webcam and microphone, but importantly, to listen while we, the rest of the Wise Crowd, have a conversation about your question, your prompt. And we're going to focus that conversation, as I made mention, around this phenomenon that is to the question is basically what liberating structures or what patterns of thinking come to mind to help address or deal with or do something around this situation, question, or challenge, and how might we string them together to deal with that. So that's the nuts and bolts. After we then have a conversation, so I guess it'll be just you and me, Sherry, then we're going to invite you, the client, to come back and to tell us, hey, that was really interesting what you guys were on about. Thanks for taking my stuff seriously. And this piece of information, I think, is really helpful, very interesting, or helps me see things in a different light, or it gives me some sense about what the next step might be, or what I can look into, blah, blah, blah. And then if we've got another case, which I certainly do, we can rotate and everybody can take an opportunity to bring in a situation, question, or challenge. So how does that sound? And how do I say your name? Because I notice I'm very like, how do I do this right and well?
Lady.
Lady.
Yes. Let me change it because we are two here.
Yeah.
But lady,
awesome.
yes, you said it very well.
Great. And who's your home slice there?
We are Lady and Abdallah.
Abdallah. Righteous. Okay, so if that's more or less clear enough to let her rip, tell us what's the story.
Okay. We have an event that we expected to conduct this week, where we will invite local leaders in our area, wards leaders, and the councillors. In that event, we are going to present the multi-stakeholder partnership on climate action.
Sick.
Yes, the project that we are executing right now. It's going to be 6 hours event. Discussing with them about the climate change issues. What are the experience from them, if they have experienced those climate change issues and the impacts in their areas, and some actions or initiative that during the past was conducted, and if it did well or not. So what are the experience from that angle? So it's going to be like presentation from us, and then plenary discussions from the participants, and us, we will lead the sessions.
Okay.
And yes, and then we expect they will also present from the groups what some issues going on concerning climate action, climate change issues in our area. Yeah, so we believe that these are the one who lead community or lead people in our area, because they are councillors and the ward executive officers among them. So it's almost 26 people in the one room. So our take is, what are the good suggestions? Maybe how can we make it so perfect so as to deliver our intended goal? And
cool. I think that
yeah, our objective is like to sensitize and mobilize local leaders in our area, so as they can be part of the climate action, which is part of climate action planning at district level. Yep.
Okay. So clarifying questions. So clarifying questions is, let me do a checksum. So we are in this sort of like local regional context of different sort of stakeholders involved in like region-wide climate change action. And we are coming together for, it sounds like a long session. This is, you said 6 to 8 hours, right?
Yeah, 6 hours.
Okay, 6 hours co-located. And what we want to do is, sounds like 3 things that came through for me is to let folks know about some forward. Was there a connotation of forward looking, like a plan? This is our plan, and backward looking, or mostly forward looking, or how does that sit?
Mm. Can I go?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, so we have this initiative to with different groups of stakeholders. So these are one. So we have actually we have a plan of what we want to do. So we want to engage them, but this will lead to a plan at district level that we want to co-create with them, and we want them, and together with other stakeholder groups, to create and sign and then implement. So this is the first time they are listening about this. We want to tell them that this is happening, starting, and we want them to be involved.
All right. Okay. So the goal of this session is to like create, sign, and get and move towards implementation.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. So definitely forward looking. So, and it's you said it's the first time that these stakeholders are coming together.
For this, they are, I guess they meet for regular, because they are the same, they have the same position. Each of them belongs to a ward. They are the leaders of the ward, so they work together with, there are 13 wards, so they will all come together to this meeting. And it's the first time they hear about this initiative.
Okay.
Most of them, but they know each other, I guess, like, yeah.
Okay, so it is. So it sounds like something you've sort of been working up to, and this is the first time that you're actually sort of rolling up your sleeves to get to work to it. Okay, it looks like Sherry's got a question in the chat. Climate change can be a big topic. Is there a particular climate change topic you're wanting to discuss?
Not really. It's mainly about local impacts and opportunities on climate change adaptation and mitigation.
Okay.
But on a local context.
Yeah, so local context, climate change, adaptation, and mitigation. And it sounds like okay, so you've got a combination of these folks know each other. You've got some stuff that I'm sure you guys have sort of thought about and want to share with these group of people. There are probably a whole bunch of outstanding questions about how you want to go about doing things. What do you want to become? What do you want to make possible? And the goal is to leave this session after 6 hours with some form of plan for this regional climate change initiatives around adaptation and mitigation. Look for some opportunities. All right, nice little small, isolated, insignificant, like I like it. A meta challenge. Sick. So I think that gives us well, Sherry, do you have any other clarifying questions? We're a little over time.
I think she has. What do you want help with in waste crowds? Yeah, well, I think we wanted your your advice on which kind of structure or structures we can use to make this happen.
Yeah, for sure. Then you're absolutely at the right place at the right time. So Abdullah, thank you very much. You guys are already webcam off. So just put yourself on mute, and Sharon and I are going to chop it up, and we're going to come up with some advice for you. I do want to try and put a time constraint around that advice we can make this a little bit more of a working session and go back and forth, but still let's just put 8 minutes on the clock, play it like we mean it, and go from there. So Sherry, what structures come to mind to help us deal with this this thing that's coming up? So the first thing that jumps off to me right away is thinking about purpose to practice. Just because, we're creating, this is kind of a Giga kickoff session with the added bonus of we have to create the thing kind of that we're kicking off. So purpose to practice comes to mind. And what's interesting is that my good nerdy friends Barry and Christian of the Liberators were just kicking around a new visual for purpose to practice that I can share with you guys and go from there. What other structures, before I unpack purpose to practice, what other structures come to mind that we might be able to make use of in this type of environment? Another that jumps out to me is social network webbing. That definitely feels like it would, yeah, Barry and Christian of the Liberators, Barry over aim, and Christian Fairwijs. They're two Dutch dudes. They are the Liberators. They exist on the internet. And they are the dudes that I've learned most of liberating structures from or with, however you want to think about it. They create incredible Medium articles that explain absolutely everything you can imagine about how to use liberating structures in a Scrum sort of environment. And created a zombie Scrum survey. This is a tangent coming back to what structures. Purpose to practice seems good. 25-10 crowdsourcing definitely is going to be your friend. 15% solutions are going to be necessary. And the biggest question I have at the end of the day is, how are you going to document this information? That feels very important to say. Another thing to bookmark is strategic doing. Also has a lot of really good information about how we can think about gathering on a larger procedure way. So let me send, Sherry says 9 whys for sure. Keep them coming, Sherry. What do you got? Triz, most definitely. 9 whys. For real. I think that drawing together additionally could be a very interesting opportunity, especially being co-located. There is definitely a sense of doing a thing that could it always triggers people as well. So let me, I guess, sign into this damn call on this other device, because that's how I roll. And so I can share a screen and show you this cool ass visual for drawing together. Or no, not drawing together, for purpose to practice. we can go over how that works. We got 9 whys, Triz, purpose to practice, social network webbing, drawing together maybe. Feels like lots of good juice. There I am again. I'm going to stay co-host on this device. I do understand that I'm recording myself, and it's very weird that I can see myself. I'm not going to join the audio because that would be too much. And now I can share screen from this bad boy. Near mark, get set, race. I just broke that. That was not awesome, particularly. All right, purpose to practice. Boom, shakalaka. Can I get this without all the nonsense? Can I get this without even my face? Yes, we can. So purpose to practice is a sort of macro structure that ranges itself around these 5 topics, being purpose, principles, participants, structure, and practices. And I'm going to make my life slightly more easy by putting this on this app so I can draw on it and express my brain for you visually to hopefully give you some more surface area about how to make use of this thing. It doesn't seem super hard and difficult. Oh yeah. So jump over there. All right, so we got this thing, purpose to practice. Purpose. Why is your work important? What's the fundamental justification for the existence of your work? Well, what makes it matter to you and the larger community? Principles, what rules, what must we absolutely obey if we are going to be able to be successful in achieving our purpose? And then participants, who are the people that need to be involved in order to make progress towards our intended outcome along our intended process, principles. And then of course, structures, which really doesn't do it for me, because it doesn't start with a P. I mean, really, alliteration is real. So structures are kind of like your how space. How must we organize in order to get this thing done? So, and then practices. So practices is kind of like, all right, so what do we need to do in order to get this shit done? This is one framework to think about it. About what you're engaging in, and it also makes some specific suggestions in each one of these around each one of these topics, which structures could be particularly helpful for that. Around this question of purpose, what makes your work important and meaningful? Triz is interesting because this tells you what you want to stop or prevent. It seems counterintuitive to think about what do we want to stop in keeping with our purpose. But if you think about your purpose as a vector, like a sense of direction that you want to navigate on, knowing what direction not is just as good or is eliminates 180 degrees. If we think on a 2-dimensional plane, it eliminates 180 degrees more or less of like, no, not that way, stupid, this way. And that can make it a lot easier to get clear on like, hey, no, not that way. That, yes, this way, stupid. And 9 whys is another particularly powerful structure to do that. So I guess we are, that was our 8 minutes. Jesus Christ. That was so fast. I can't unpack all of this stuff. But let's start here and get some feedback from Leda and Abdullah.
Yes.
So we kind of got halfway through our question. So our first question is sort of like, what structures come to mind and how do we string them together? And I've now spammed you with a lot of information that is both of those the answer to both of those questions sort of stacked up and layered on top of each other. Whether it was helpful or not, that's the way. So based on your initial sense of hearing these topics? How does this sort of land with you? What's your sense of direction?
Well, that was a lot of information that we need to digest. Well, definitely we have to check on this purpose to practice and see, yeah, maybe how to. It's a structure per se, or it's composed by all these structures that are mentioned around.
Yes, so both. So it is a bit of a hydra. Purpose to practice is one of like these 33 liberating structures. It is one of the 33, and you can see that it's sort of built out of or composed. You can use these other structures that it's sort of suggesting on the exterior there to as ways to answer these topics or questions that it's sort of bringing up. And so on one hand, there is the topics, and these are the ways. This is one lens that you might want to think about, like checking all of these boxes at the end of those 6 hours. If at the end of those 6 hours you have something you've put together, you've gotten everybody, all 26 people in the room, to think with you about an answer to each one of those topics, you will definitely run away with this thing going, all right, we have got something started. But what you can also see that's missing in this that we could sort of imagine here into structures is like, all right, so what are we going to do, right? And then although it also is very much around how are we going to do it. So there's two different facets or components. One is this sort of like organizationally, what I would say is this helps you get your foundations of this group that you've got together sort of straight and clear. And then you have an additional challenge, which is where this suggestion of strategic doing sort of came from. And that additional challenge is much more on this practical side of like, okay, what are the opportunities that we want to pursue together? And I wonder to what extent are those opportunities, do you already have some earmarked, or how do you have an idea about how you'd like to engage folks around pursuing those opportunities? So that's a whole nother line of inquiry, in addition to like just make sure that everybody sort of knows who's in the room, who's inside of the bubble, has a clear understanding and has contributed to the group's description of purpose, and has actively created the principles that they think are essential to pursuing that purpose. That's kind of what this boils down to. So the first way is TRIZ. So I'm literally just going to go through each one of these things and overload you probably with more information, but also this is kind of going to become a high resolution, like laundry list of things that you can go, oh yeah, we're going to grab that and do that thing because I think that's important, and maybe we're not going to do that. So that's what I'm going for. If you think that's not the way you want to go, speak up. Because for TRIZ asks you to, this was a suggestion that Sherry also made around purpose, which is think about how you, in the context of this regional project, could create the worst possible outcomes, the ones you don't even want to consider. What are the things that you guys as an individual and as a group of people and different subgroups could do to create the worst possible outcome in your environment? And then ordinarily you would look at that list of things that you can do, and you basically go through that list and you go, are we doing any of those things? If you wanted to look backwards, for the purposes of your purpose, just defining, hey, these are the behaviors that lead to the bad outcome that we want to avoid is really great. That's sufficient. So and the way that you could do that, you said since you're in a relatively large group of 26 people, the way I would think of layering absolutely everything over the course of the day would be in one of two lenses. The first lens is the most fundamental tool that I can possibly offer you, that is just going to make sure that the atmosphere, vibe, and contribution to this whole day just sort of sings with ease and simplicity, and that is 1, 2, 4 all. So if you just went as basic as it sounds, that question or prompt that that Triz sort of brings us into, the invitation, which is how do we create the worst possible scenario? If you just offered that to people and says, how could we actively create the worst possible outcome in this regional thing, and gave them 1 minute to silently reflect and sort of make their own notes about their answers to that question, and then just 2 minutes of interaction with just one other person, so back and forth sharing what you thought around that question or prompt to create the worst possible outcome. And then after those 2 minutes, to invite that pair of people to join up with another pair of people, and then to paraphrase each other. So if it's Sherry and I in this pair, and we were meeting you, Leda, and Abdallah, I would tell you what Sherry just told me, and Sherry would tell you what I just told her, and then you guys would do the same thing, paraphrasing one another and getting Sherry and I up to speed about the conversation that you had. And then in that time, we're sort of like trading notes in these groups of 4, and that can be very brief, again, just 4 minutes. And then after that period of 4 minutes, we would come together in all of these different groups of 4 and in what we call all, in the all space. And you would just go around each of these groups of 4, and you would invite them. Let's see how many, it should be 8 groups of 4. Nope, 7 groups of 4, I think, for you guys. So I would go around to each group of 4 and say, hey, give me the Reader's Digest version of the conversation you just had going up to here. Like, put one person on the spot, give them 60 seconds and tell us what you guys just talked about in 60 seconds or less. And try not to repeat anything you've heard more or less in those other groups. Just like say, yep, us over here, when somebody says that, but don't regurgitate stuff that's already been in the group. But just take 5 minutes to go around the group and collect the basic information that everybody asked. So using that 1, 2, 4 all can ensure that you include and unleash everyone in the context. So 15 minutes is your rotation time to go through this round of 1, 2, 4 all with the whole group, and include and unleash everyone around your question or prompt. And if you do that around this question of how do we create the worst possible outcomes, the places we don't want to go, and then you could use an additional tool that is 9 whys to identify the meaning, significance, and purpose that you do want to pursue. So what makes this could look as easy as us pairing up and going back and forth. We take 5 minutes per person, and I ask you basically 9 times in a row why adapting to climate change and mitigating climate change is meaningful, significant, and important to you. Why does that matter? Over and over and over again, 9 times deep. So you would do that with me, Sherry, and I would do that with you, and Abdallah and Leda, would do that with each other. And then once more, we would come back to this pattern. So a little bit different time box, 10 minutes in the, pardon me, here in the 2 space, really no space there for, but you can still give 1 minute of silent reflection. And then 10 minutes of one-on-one, so 5 minutes per person. And then I would say, max out at probably 5 to 10 minutes of in these small groups of 4. And then same story, come back to this all thing. And so that would in 30 minutes for 9 whys, and in 15 minutes for that initial round of Triz, you would have really well concretely answered this question around, hey, what the fuck are we doing here for? What is our intended purpose? Why are we gathering together? What do we want to stop and avoid, right, with Triz? And what is it we actually want to move towards with 9 whys? And then in terms of principles, you could think about using a structure as simple as 1, 2, 4 all, yet again, or you could use something like minimum specifications. Minimum specifications would just invite everyone to again use 1, 2, 4 all to answer this question: what rules must we absolutely obey in achieving our purpose? And again, using that 15 minutes to create that initial list that we call the maximum specifications. And then I would go through effectively each item on the list and go, hey, if we ignored that principle, could we still get to our intended purpose? And if the answer to that is, yeah, we could ignore it, then you toss it out. And if the answer to that is no, we could not ignore it and still be successful in pursuing our purpose, then it's in. Then it is one of your minimum specifications. And that would be how you could create this list of principles. You could go from a very big list and compare each of those principles up to that purpose and start removing those things and go, okay, yeah, but we don't necessarily need to put that front row and center. If we fudge the lines or squiggle a little bit, we'll be okay. And that you would expect to take about 30 minutes. And then thinking about this question of participants, I would say social network webbing is a very interesting exercise for you guys to define the stakeholder landscape. So social network webbing would move in a couple different steps. We would create, or we would make a large canvas. So find some big surface, a wall. And if you want to use Post-it notes or and pieces of string and tape, what you're literally going to do is you're going to put yourself on this map that you're creating together, and you're going to cluster yourself with the people that you see and interact with the most. And then you're going to draw lines either with string or with a marker. If you imagine yourself on like a big ass whiteboard, and you will draw lines of connection between you and all of the people that you interact with the most. And then after you've created that artifact, you'll sort of zoom out and go, okay, so if this is the current status of our social network, this is the topography of our web, how are we going to, where do we see gaps? Who are the people that don't look like they're talking to each other, that probably should be talking to each other, in order to create this overall sense of who is in the bubble? That's a longer structure, but it does create an interesting set vector for clarification, as well as intervention, right? Because you can zoom out and do that sense making of like, hey, who should be talking to each other? And that could inform your portfolio of, hey, these are the things that we want to focus our attention on. And then the next question being structures. How do we want to organize ourselves to distribute, control, and achieve our purpose? For that, there's a lot that you could say in terms of like, this can be a very big governance-y space. I would say sort of export your thinking from Triz and think, hey, remember, not this shit. These are the way we want to organize to be able to avoid all that crap. And then using a wicked question, and a wicked question uses the following format, which is, how is it that we A and Z at the same time? How is it that we A and Z at the same time? So there's a lot of different ways that I could suggest to answer this question. How is it that we are both A and Z at the same time? But if you think about 1, 2, 4 all, you can do that to think about to just generate as many of these as you can in that period of time. Offer people this template and go look for some form of polarity. Look for some form of like paradox or charge. That you could do it also in thinking about this laundry list that you created for minimum specifications, right? We just thought about all of the things we would need to be successful. Are there any paradoxes in that laundry list of things that we did decide are absolutely essential? Are there 2 different things that make me go, ooh, that is sort of very yin and that is very yang? How is it that we make yin and get yin and yang because we decided we need both of them to be successful? So thinking about that, looking at that laundry list of stuff and creating a wicked question could be a really good way to export this thinking and make it and sort of do a callback, make it a little bit more concrete and valuable. Or if you have like a specific type of template for organizational structure that you guys like to use, this is your time to sort of really fill that in as much fidelity as you want. Another structure I might suggest that could be very handy for you is this the idea of 15% solutions. So with no more time, energy, resources, or etc., what forms of organization are already available for us that can help us distribute control and achieve our purpose? And that paradox is very essential. You want to distribute control so that we can achieve our purpose. And then this question of structure informed with creating a wicked question that can inform your structure and / or a 15% solution around that. There's also some really good pattern libraries in S3 that I can recommend around domain clarification. And I know this is way more information than you can possibly absorb, but this is being recorded and this is stuff that you will definitely want to look into or might want to. I don't know, let me not overtalk my shit. So S3 domain clarification is also another big set of like big laundry list of a checklist of like, this is the shit you need to consider. I can show you a canvas of that and show you where you can find it. And then you can do that. So let's see, let's get the big one. So this is the delegation or domain canvas. This is S3 is a pattern library for sociocracy. The third version of Soki is sociocracy. It's another one of these post-agile frameworks. And what they like to describe is the primary driver and purpose of the group or context, the key responsibilities, the dependencies. If you think about that social network webbing that comes in there, the key responsibilities is more of a role-y type thing. The external constraints, this key is also another really good space. Triz sort of also hits on these constraints that we're under, as well as wicked questions, helps us tick off that box. The key challenge being a simple articulation of that no space that you don't want to move towards. The key deliverables being like the laundry list of shit we want to do. This I like 15% solutions as a descriptor for. The key challenges, this can be Triz and wicked questions. And competencies, qualities, and skills. If you think about that social network web, this is the like, all right, who else? And what I need from you is a good way to answer these questions around competencies, qualities, and skills. Monitoring and evaluation. I really like an additional framework, which is the Strategyzer test card, to describe how you're going to monitor and evaluate, and also helps you answer key objectives. And that is relatively it. Delegator responsibilities. So if you think about whoever gave you guys this job, Leda, this group, these people, these institutions, these NGOs that said, hey, do something there about climate change adaptation and mitigation. Those motherfuckers that said, please do something about this, they owe you something. They have a job to do. Don't let them sneak out of here with just giving you money and saying, go do some shit. You need help. We all need help. The people that delegated us to do this work have responsibilities. What is the things that you need from them? Again, what I need from you in order to be successful achieving your key deliverables, your purpose, your outcome, blah, 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 right? 9 whys is there, plus Triz. We're crossing all of these dots with lots of different tools. And this is what helps us know that we're not forgetting anything. Key deliveries, resources is something that you can also do, especially in this strategy not working. So key resources, you can think about, okay, if I'm making this mind map, which is the ecosystem and the web of relationships, what are the resources that each of us have access to? And those resources can look like time, they can look like machinery, they can look like space, they can look like access, space, I can spell, they can look like access or relationships. What are those key resources that are built into that social networking web? So going back, boom, man, this is getting deep. That's a high resolution look at structures, like just to let you know, like there's all types of shit you can look at and define and blah, blah, blah. You might need a minimum viable structure that you could achieve with something just like what, so what, now what. There was an additional thing that was in here that now that it looks completely illegible, I'm also going to give you, because I nerd out about this shit, an additional canvas that when I said monitoring and evaluation and test cards. Test cards are a really good way to describe the work that you want to do and to be able to have enough information to articulate it well. And the test looks like, we believe that, ... What is it that what's your basic underlying assumption? You know, your assumption, your hypothesis, what is it that you think is true about the world? And to verify that, to get some feedback around that assumption, what is the thing you're going to do? What is your 15% solution? How are you going to stay limited to no more time, energy, and resources? But what's it going to cost you to run this test? And how reliable is it that you're going to get feedback around that assumption, do you think? And measure. This is super important. So this can be very much a feeling, right? Your assumption can be very qualitative. It can be a sensation. And measure. This is where the rubber hits the road. What is it that you're going to look at that lets you see, hear, and notice, you know, whether, man, notice whether or not your test reflected positively or negatively on your underlying assumption. What are you going to look at to evaluate? And then my personal favorite is this one here. If you are wrong about your assumption, what are the failure states that you would expect to see that lets you know, oops, I was wrong. let's stop this whole thing quickly and move on to the next thing. This you can think of as your triz again. It's a really good way to describe those failure states. So these test cards really slot in well with both your key deliverables. They help describe what you're going to do, and they help describe your key metrics that are going to let you know. And they're also going to give you some sense of monitoring and evaluation for those failure states as well as those metrics. You can think about those things sort of together. So that's a deep dive into structure. Sorry, not sorry. That's what I'm here to do, is apparently to ramble my fucking ass off today. Jesus. I almost want to apologize how much I'm just going and dumping shit, but this is what I do. Practices. So practices. I'm going to be very actually prescriptive here and say for practices, you want one thing above and beyond everything. And I don't know how this is going to be achievable for you, but you want what we consider a 30-30 as a most minimum viable practice. This is just going to be like, okay, we have defined a whole bunch of tests or a whole bunch of interventions. We're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to need to coordinate to get those things done. So every however long, every 30 days, every month, we're going to come back together and we're going to look at those tests, and we're going to decide how we keep going or continuing, where we should be pivoting, how we're going to pursue, and what is the sort of outstanding statusy shit. So having this, like agreeing on the date or the time and the means, whether that's in person or whether it's an online call every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks. How often is that call? Get people to commit to it and put it on their calendars is the most important thing, right? But and then filling that regular cadence with as much value as you possibly can. It's going to be pretty essential. So the reason that I would say 1 hour a month is usually a good, like, if you can get people to actually do something that only takes them 1 hour a month, then you're in good shape. Then you can build on success. But for those first things, those first tests, those first probes that you're going to run, they should be with stuff you've already got in the kitchen, resources that are already available, and they should just be recombining those resources in new tests or new interventions. And then you should be coming back together to check up on those and get information about that as regularly as you can merit. But think about your uber constraint, which is all of the stuff that we're going to do in this new confederation, this new regional association. Like, I'm going to imagine that you're all busy humans that are closer to the ground in those places. So this thing that we're going to do together is only going to cost us an hour a month. And if you can do anything that delivers that, and I would say fast is your absolute priority. Put something so small on the table that you can go, in 3 months, you have a product or a finished project that you've put out there that everybody contributed just an hour per person per month on. You will feel great and build a lot of momentum. But maybe I'm going way, 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 way too overboard, because I am talking and explaining the shit out of myself. So how's that been, Leda? Abdallah?
Wow.
It's so wonderful.
I think you have already designed all the partnership, not this event, like you have done
The whole
our
map
work.
of the MSP, you have it.
Yeah, so
these are the tools that I find useful. Thank you.
Wow, like we have to do like this event that we were presenting is just one out of a lot of them. So I think now we have to, yeah, like I think what you were presenting is useful for this event, but it's also super useful for the whole structure, the rest of the groups, because actually what we want from all of them is to whoever wants to get engaged in the initiative. So
Amen.
something you were saying that yeah, I really take it, like the last thing you were saying about getting a commitment like as simple as 1 hour per month. I think we really need to be creative in that, but I think that is something very visual and easy to track and can contribute a lot to the initiative. Well, I think we need to study further everything that you were presenting, but also the thing about the test cards, that's something that I think we, it's very, like if we start with the simple tests, I think it's super useful. Like we will have a lot of events, so we can start with small things that we can see if people are interested in or not, and then change quickly. So
Awesome.
that is super interesting as well. Yeah, I have my page full of things. Well,
Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
maybe on the issue of test cards, what's your recommendation? Is it good for individual or maybe in a group?
What's
Hello?
that?
Yes, I was about to know more about the test card, the application of test cards. Is it good to be used in an individual or in a group?
Yes, I would say. So there's advantages to both, right? So if I make a test for myself, that again, scoping is the big challenge, I think, in a lot of initiatives, right? How do we pick an amount of work that's not so much that it becomes an unbearable burden that we can't ever get finished? But how do I think in the stuff that I can deliver with no more time, resources, or authority than what's available to me right now is an important question. So I can make a test card for myself, right? And that gives me a lot of agency and a lot of speed, right? If I write a test that I can deliver and I can get some feedback, then I can tell you about that test, and you get that return on storytelling. So the advantage of solo tests is speed and agency and feedback and storytelling, blah blah blah. The advantage of group scale tests, right? These are the things that we can do to combine our efforts to get some feedback and engage in storytelling. Then there is something around collaboration in general that increases the surface area of both like shit to go wrong and just take more time and like crash and burn, but it also makes bigger things possible that I could never hope to accomplish realistically all by myself. So I think about test cards ideally you can do it on any scale, but I'd like to think about test cards that I can run this whole test and come back and do the flip side of this within a quarter. So I could do this, I could go through it, I could get this information, and then I could sit down and think about it inside of a quarter. Like the faster you can go from, I have an idea, I've went out and done something, and I can evaluate how that went, the better. And there's two different ways that I can suggest to do that evaluation. One is the Strategyzer test card has a counterpart that is called a learning card. And that learning card is great. It's just, it looks just like the test card. And it looks a lot like this. This is the ladder of inference from an additional structure that is called what, so what, now what. And what just allows us, it just invites us to collect our data. Out of that stuff that we were going to look at, what is the data? What did we see, hear, and notice around our intended observations? And so what, right? What is the meaning that you make out of those, out of that data from those observations? That is the most important part. And then now what? So based on what you did and what you saw and the meaning that you ascribe to it, what is the specific action or intervention that now seems like, okay, you know, I should pivot and go in this different direction, integrating this new learning. I should keep pursuing it because I got some good feedback. I should, you know, I came close to my failure states and I'm off in the completely wrong direction. Now I know to move to something completely different, blah, blah, blah. So that's what, so what, now what? And you can nest that in that 1, 2, 4 all, either answering the whole thing in one round of 1, 2, 4 all, what, so what, now what, or taking 1, 2, 4 all to gather all your what's across the whole group, to gather all your so what's across the whole group around whatever pieces of data that those individuals thought were salient, relevant, and interesting. Then you're now what's, you know, brainstorming what you think makes sense from that action perspective. And again, 1, 2, 4 all here, 1, 2, 4 all here, 1, 2, 4 all there. And now that I've explained that, that'll hopefully give some sense of like, oh, that's how these things are freaking related when we go back and look at the Strategyzer test card. So it says, just repeat your hypothesis. What was it that you assumed? What was your observation? What did you see, hear, and notice? What's your data? From that, we learned has to do with the meaning of so what, and therefore we will, now what? Again, so data, meaning, learning, observation, meaning, learning, action. What, so what, now what? So is the structure of the learning card. So that was a lot of information that was way in addition to your actual question of should they be individual or should they be group. But I think both. I would definitely recommend. I mean, for what it sounds like you're trying to do, it sounds like you're trying to create some form of regional / bioregional federation of different projects. So you want to think about governance in a polycentric way. Like every one of these people is in their own local context, and that they are doing a whole bunch of shit in, and that center of their attention is sort of the world that gets maximum attention and maximum energy, because that's the local context. And that's where I am at. And then this thing that you're doing is not even the team of people that is working with them as an individual in their local context, but it's more sort of in this middle space, this additional layer that unifies lots of teams together and lots of individual contexts, or is in this larger regional thing. I would say where you guys are at are probably here in like the big scheme of things, where you think about like, okay, your region interfaces with lots of regions in a sort of national type of way, and that sort of scales into this larger international NGO space. But you guys are up here, so thinking about all of these different centers of governance and how from up here you can sort of help to create contexts that make it easier for people to do stuff, and all of these additional layers is definitely going to be your friend. And this, by the way, this sort of nested holonic map is another really interesting structure that you could also use to map out the environment, and that is called Panarchy. And Panarchy is incredible, but it's a big thing all in of itself. It would basically ask you to think about what is the components of each of these layers. First and foremost, what are these layers for you? You're going to call them different things that make sense to your context. So decide what your layers are of your onion, and then decide what the components are inside of those layers, and then chart each one of those components to the ecocycle. The ecocycle is yet another tool. So are you guys digging how I do this? Right? We use tools to think about stuff. It makes everybody happy. And so I would say this is the ecocycle. Take all of the stuff, all the components of each layer in the onion, and think about where it is at in its own life cycle of seed phase, regeneration, birth. It's a baby, new project, maturity. This project kicks ass. Everybody loves it. It is the thing that we can build other projects around. And creative destruction. Man, this project used to be pretty awesome, but people are sort of bored, and maybe we're wasting our energy putting it into this project when we could sort of burn it down, compost it, and release new energy for all of this new stuff that we've brainstormed as possible. So Panarchy just says, make one of these ecocycles for every single one of these different layers, going up and down the stack, and then zoom out and look at how that map fits together and think about what is the stuff, what is those brand new shiny ideas that just don't get enough water, and they don't get enough good soil, enough daylight to sprout and to be born into something. And also, what are the things that we are wasting more time and energy maintaining and keeping in service, whereas we could be chopping those things down, composting or burning them to release new time, attention, and energy for those things in scarcity. So thinking about those two questions up and down this stack, again, comes back to this practical question that you guys had of like, how do we come up with the game plan of the shit that we're going to do? Like that particular space of like, do something about killing your darlings, do something about moving something that is stuck, moving a new initiative forward that doesn't quite get enough energy. That is two really powerful frames to think about, creating your catalog of tests, so to speak.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I would say start with purpose to practice, make some tests, think about super easy 15% solutions. What you're looking for your first test is actually just make one project. I know there's going to be a tendency that you guys are going to throw a lot of different projects in. Make a map of all of the projects that are outstanding and come up with one project that you guys can do together as a regional thing. And think about that constraint of 1 hour per person or per group per month. And then if you can deliver that thing after 3 months, you will go, hey, see, I told you we could do this thing. And then people will trust you. People will trust you because you can be responsible of helping them realize outcomes. And that's extraordinarily important.
I like that energy.
So, boom. This was not a 15-minute consultation of wise crowds.
No, we took a lot of your time.
No, but it sure got us started. So that's thank you for bringing this incredible design brief. And I would say that would be a lot of different ways that you could go about doing these things. If I think about the most concrete answer, if I have 6 hours with these nerds, I want to know who's in the bubble. And I think Panarchy is a really powerful way to know what is sort of going on and what does the resource map look like that can also generate some form of laundry list of like, hey, this is a thing that we might really, really want to do something about. One other structure that I didn't mention that is in this milieu, I did mention it very briefly, is 25-10 crowdsourcing. At some point in the day, you're definitely going to need to do that. So I will unpack this one, and then I'm going to go pick up my kids. 25-10 crowdsourcing asks everybody to pick a one thing that they think is like the thing that we want to work at. Another, this is slightly tangential, but that thing that you want to work at, the 15% solution, the very first one should be a particular type of thing that we like to call the big easy. It's usually a big problem that has some form of easy solution. And the metaphor that I think is the best is this dude, what the fuck is his name? Doesn't matter. He wrote the Strategic Doing book. He says, look for a problem that has like the equivalent of putting the shower curtain in the bathtub, right? If you take a shower and the shower curtain is outside of the bathtub, like water runs all over the floor, nobody likes that shit. But if you just put the shower curtain inside of the fucking bathtub, no more problem. And that was super easy, right? So you're looking for a collective problem that has that type of solution. That, oh yeah, you know, when we just stopped being stupid, it made our life so much better. So if you asked everybody, okay, you say you do all of this fucking mapping shit, blah, 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 and you have a whole bunch of things that you could do in one of these different scarcity or rigidity traps. At every single point, you'll have enough people that you could have 4 people do each one of these things, and they would all come out with a laundry list of stuff. If you just asked everybody to sort of cross-pollinate and share all of that information, and then to come up with their big easy, what's the one thing that you think is that big easy? And put it on write a description of the index card. On an index card, and if you want to be super fancy, think about the first thing, 3 things we do to get started. But just describe your test on that index card. What you then do is invite people to just start trading index cards, right? Give them 5 or 10 minutes to define their test, and everybody then just says, okay, you play some funny music. I really like the Benny Hill theme music. Do you know that one? It's just stupid and silly, and it sounds ridiculous. I can't hear that because my goddamn headset. But pick out some stupid music. Oh, yeah. So that's the theme song, right? Pick out some music, trade note cards a whole bunch of times, and don't look at them. And then when you sort of like stop the music, you play musical chairs, you stop the music, and then you just look at the note card that's in your hand right then and there. And then you take a minute to evaluate the note card, and then on the back of it, you write a score, 1 being low, 5 being high, based on how you feel about that suggestion for the big easy, right? And you would go through and you would do that exchange and take a note 5 times. So at the end of this 5 times exchange, 5 times scoring, each card has 5 different scores on a scale of 1 to 5. And then you literally just ask people, add up those numbers and then stand on a line. 25's down there, 0, 5's down there, right? And just line up in a row. You just read off the card that has the highest score, and you just go with that, more or less. That's an algorithm for decentralized decision making that distributes the evaluation across the whole group. So everybody gets to contribute their sense making into that, and no one gets to decide at the same time. It's magic. So 25-10 crowdsourcing is almost going to be guaranteed an essential tool at some point in the thing that you're hosting. If you're going to try and come up with an action list, or it even could even be these principles. At some point, you're going to want to get everybody's input, and you're not going to want to sit around in a big ass talky circle where everybody interrupts each other and it just goes like a nightmare. So 2510 crowdsourcing, you'll want somewhere in your workshop. Woo!
Woo!
Woo! Leda, Abdallah, thank you guys so much for an incredible question. I'm looking forward to working with you nerds and hanging out and taking some more time to hold your hand and help you get prepared for this stuff. So
Well,
I never thought that question could take so long.
1 hour and a half.
I thought like it could be A or B.
yeah, this is process mindfulness. So yeah, Leda, Unai has my calendar link. So if you want to get some more time to talk about like the actual nuts and bolts preparation of this stuff in more gritty detail, throw some time at me, and then we can do that together.
Great. Well, but yeah, we are very, very thankful. Yeah, for your
Awesome.
time, your motivation, your ideas. Yeah, I will
My
ask
pleasure.
Unai, and then I think we'll continue seeing each other for other things, well, similar things.
For sure.
Yeah.
We'll rock and roll. And
Yeah.
if I could ask you also to do me a solid and send your guys' email in the chat. Edward Morrison, that's him. Thank you so much, Sherry.
Our email?
Yeah, send your email in the chat so I can also send you guys a participation badge for joining this public facing call. This is part of my experiment, is trying to keep track of participation. I'm doing a horrible job, but I'm going to keep collecting the information that allows me to retroactively do a good job. So if you send me your emails in the chat, then I can make sure that I register participation.
So you have your own cards, for this, you're doing your own tests,
My own test cards. Oh, absolutely. We're always inside of a test. Some form of test, some form of game, right?
Sorry, my email is the right one, is the one down. I missed
Okay, great. No worries. Well, thanks guys so much for your time, attention, and energy. It is time for me to go scoop up my kids. I will talk to you guys in the next one, huh?
Thank you.
Squish my face with their face.
Yeah, yes. Sherry had a question, or I don't know.
Oh, word? I can't see anything because I'm doing this stupid screen share. What was up, Sherry? Sorry. I have the chat over the top of you as well. Tools, how to collect the artifacts. Yeah, no shit. Oh, this is actually one of the biggest pain points I have, is that we are using these great social technologies. But this challenge about creating documentation that we can share easily with other people is one that I would highly encourage you nerds to think about. The obvious answer of like documenting stuff is going to be like some form of like notes, whether that's post-its or whatever. But remember that the documentation is actually in the community of people in this workshop, right? You're creating a living artifact that is like talk about this stuff. So one, think about it from that perspective, but also think about it from like an artistic course and storytelling perspective of like, how can I document the stories that we are creating here together to get today so that we can tell them to other people and create more surface area. There is one particular frame that I have around that challenge is think about the idea of working out loud. There's a YouTube video on it, a TED talk from this nerd who talks about this method of building a movement called working out loud. So think about documentation as just like, simple ethnography, right? You guys are coming together and you want to create a cultural artifact of the meeting that you had together. So how can you document those things in ways that are very low burden for you in the room, but also high value for people outside of the room? You know, I would say to think in different scales about that. There's a scale around a skim, like the briefest summary. Like think about this whole 1, 2, 4 all is actually like 15 minutes times, 20 people is actually like hours and hours and hours of conversation. And so think about the way that you summarize that in just like one headline. And that is the summary. And then think about the way that you might extract or expand that summary into something that is like the executive version, like the 3 bullet points, right? The 3-act story for that thing that you can read or unpack for people in 60 seconds. And then think about to truly understand, to grok something, like to grasp it deeply. That is usually like it would probably take you some amount of time of 5 minutes of sit down with this thing and really absorb it in 5 minutes. So if you think about those different goals at those different scales, summarize, skim, grok, creating some form of artifact so that, if you could, whatever is going to work for you and the people in your community. Like I know internet nerds that I might just do this whole damn thing as a fucking space on Twitter, right? And ask people to tweet all of their information. Like that's great for that summary thing, but it's not so great for that skim and that grok deeply. For something around skimming, like short text, like a paragraph of text might be perfectly adequate, that I can send around to everybody to give them a high level overview. And for that grok, that might be something that both short like meme level visuals and tweets is not going to do it, and certainly text at that stage is probably not going to be the most awesome. A document that just it becomes so long that I don't even want to, but maybe a video or a short audio clip that just is the explanation is the most accessible way for people to digest that. I don't know what that's going to be for your context. I don't know enough about it actually, but yeah, what I could say is, again, just thinking at those different scales of creating an artifact of your thinking is great. So if you do Panarchy, for example, that you can create the visual, like the actual physical visual, make a big wall or whatever, like a large mural, or do it on the ground, on the floor if you're inside, and make the different nested layers and make an eco cycle for each one of those. And then think about, at some point in that structure, you'll want to go and cross-pollinate across groups. So think about recording that 5-minute summary, that grok level of each of these people, either just an audio clip or a video at the end of that sort of cross-pollination phase. But that's what I got. I really got to go scoop up my kids.
Yes.
I love you guys so much.
Yes.
See you around.
No more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, jokes, you guys got jokes. Safe travels. Merry Christmas, by the way.
Yes. Merry Christmas.